Citizens speak out. People from across all sectors of society have joined in united calls for the governments to work in the best interests of citizens by according them human rights, respect, and allowing their participation in government, including those in Bahrain, Burkina Faso, Jordan, Libya, Mauritania, Nigeria, Syria, and Yemen.
Following ongoing demands from citizens protesting for improved public services, the Iraqi government approved a $37 billion program to upgrade transportation, highway, and other infrastructure. Meanwhile, at least 10 people in Iraq's northern city of Mosul were wounded during protests on Monday, April 25th, when some 3,000 gathered in objection to the ongoing presence of U.S. military troops within the country.
After post-election clashes between the predominantly Christian South and primarily Muslim North left 500 people dead, Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan appealed to fellow citizens to avoid violence and to work together to jointly build the country.
The Jordan Times reports that during a meeting with U.S. congressional aides on Monday, Jordanian King Abdullah II stated that the government is advancing toward comprehensive reforms across all fields. This is being achieved through discussions with different groups in Jordanian society and by increasing opportunities for public participation in decisions that affect the country's modernization and development.
Syrian security forces continued their violent suppression of unarmed protesters on Monday. Al Jazeera reports that several doctors have been arrested for disobeying orders from the Secret Service to deny treatment to injured protesters. Other physicians stated they have been treating people in their homes but are very limited in what they can do because of a lack of supplies. Snipers on the roofs of buildings in various cities have been said to be shooting indiscriminately at people, as well as water tanks on roofs to deny people water. In response to the growing emergency, the US began evacuating all non-essential personnel and has advised all citizens to leave the country. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Navi Pillay and UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon meanwhile called for an immediate halt to the violence, speaking out against the use of military tanks and live ammunition. They also called for an investigation into the death, which human rights group Sawashia reports have reached 400. Meanwhile, Ammar Abdul Hamid, founder of pro-democracy group the Thawar Foundation, states that multiple witnesses in the city of Daraa have reported that certain troops have mutinied and are now attempting to protect the citizens of Daraa by halting the progress of other government forces.
In Yemen, even after President Ali Abdullah Saleh's pledge to step down within a month to meet the demands of protesters, security forces killed at least one and injured 10 other activists in the cities of Taiz and Aden on Tuesday. Press TV also reported that 2 female students and 4 female medics were detained in the cities of Bilad al-Qadim and Isa. Minority Party legislator Matar Matar reports that the government regime is seeking the death penalty against 7 protesters accused of killing 2 security personnel, and that lawyers for the 7 are not being given enough time to study and present their case, with a verdict expected on Thursday.
In Libya, government forces launched a grade rocket on the port of Benghazi to isolate revolutionaries from being able to access supplies, while also wounding refugees and forcing a humanitarian rescue ship to refrain from entering the port.
Tens of thousands of people worldwide have signed a petition asking Libyan officials to release South African photographer Anton Hamrel and 3 other Western journalists captured in early April. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, meanwhile, announced on Tuesday that his country will only support another UN Security Council resolution if it includes a proposal for peace negotiations.
In Burkina Faso, Agence France-Presse reports fresh protests in Kédougou, a town 60 miles from the capital where uprisings first occurred 2 months ago, as university students called for an investigation into the death of a fellow student while in police custody, with soldiers who later mutinied over the imprisonment of several colleagues as well as for better pay and working conditions. On Wednesday this week, shopkeepers in Kédougou were joined by students as they marched to protest the government's closure of 40 stores that had failed to pay taxes. With many of the country's 16 million people living on less than 1.5 euros per day, a continued rise in prices has been met with growing unease and unrest. 6 students have been killed during demonstrations since February, and many others injured, with a curfew that was recently imposed in the capital, Ouagadougou, as the government also ordered university campuses across the country to be closed. In light of the growing crisis, Burkina Faso's President Blaise Compaoré has made certain changes, including naming himself defense minister and appointing a new cabinet, as well as ordering the payment of bonuses to soldiers. However, activists have announced a large demonstration this Saturday to protest the president's 24-year rule.
A As we sorrow for the loss of precious lives, we are heartened by the glimmers of calm in some regions, and we pray that the conflicts may end in all nations as people choose to live side by side in shared freedom, dignity, and peace.
In sorrowful response to these unfortunate world events, Supreme Master Ching Hai lovingly reminds, if the road is wrong, the more we walk on it, the more we go wrong. Any leaders who committed harm to others should stop at once, sincerely repent to God, and act to redeem their mistaken deeds. Then they will be pardoned, even if humans can't forgive. Heaven will.